Drought is an issue that affects everyone. Alberta has a lot of industries that rely on healthy watersheds and the success of the accumulation of snow in the mountains. When there is a lack of accumulation, such as this year, downstream there are issues such as water shortages, which is a part of drought. A lack of precipitation and high temperatures contribute to these drought conditions that communities are facing in Alberta. In a typical year, the snowpack should contribute to a steady flow of runoff in the spring. However, this is expected to be lower in 2024. Although the outlook is getting better, due to the previous months of lack of precipitation, the runoff will be below average. In Alberta, there are 33 areas of surveying snowpacks, and 22 of these stations were found to be below average. Specifically, in the Bow River Basin, which feeds southern Albertans' water supply, has the majority of their stations reporting below average for this time of year. The Bow River Basin stations are 30 to 40 millimeters below average, which when that is looked at in the entire length of the stream, that is a significant amount of water that is not available for use anymore. Major reservoirs in Alberta are anywhere between 25 to 50% in volume of what they usually are at this time. They have been slowly released to maintain levels of rivers such as in the Bow River Basin. All of these factors are important to consider when looking at the health of wetlands in Alberta.
Wetland health is a key component to the health of the world's ecosystems. Wetlands are characterized by their soils, vegetation, and wildlife. They have an important section to biodiversity, which is called the riparian zone, which is a transition zone between the aquatic and upland zones. Urban development has been the main cause of wetland loss. In Alberta, 60 to 70% of the wetlands have disappeared. The different kinds of wetlands include bogs, swamps, marshes, shallow open water, and fens, which can be categorized by their different levels of water tables and types of vegetation. However, 93% of the wetlands in Alberta are characterized as peatlands. In Alberta, they may also be known as prairie potholes. They play a huge role in watersheds by filtering the water, creating a better water quality, storing water, supporting a large amount of species, and other uses such as recreational purposes for humans. Along with those key functions, they are a huge carbon sink for combating climate change.
Due to wetlands being a huge carbon sink, nutrient storage, and naturally engineered water filtration system, if wetlands dry out, then Earth will lose those features. Studies done in the UK show that periodic drought in the wetlands are required for seed germination, allowing new vegetation to grow. However, long-term drought will cause vegetation to dry out and lose those abilities as both a filtration system and carbon storage. For example, shallow open water wetlands will begin to shrink and possibly be split into smaller multiple wetlands over long periods of drought. Studies show that some effects of drought are reversible when quickly restored, but prolonged extreme drought that can alter specific ecosystem functions cannot be reversed even if it's wetted again. Although wetlands can be negatively affected through drought, within the bigger picture, wetlands are also the answer to solving some of the challenges we face surrounding droughts in watersheds.
Droughts also result in an increase in peak temperatures. This increase in temperature can reduce dissolved oxygen levels greatly within the water and also increase the pH level within the water, leading to oxidization of sulfur compounds, reducing the concentration of ammonium and nitrate within the wetland. Adding to these effects, the typical carbon dioxide capturing site is turned into a CO2 release site during long periods of drought. Droughts can also increase the concentration of both magnesium and calcium. When wetland soils are then re-wetted, these increased concentrations can be carried into other water bodies, reducing their water quality as well. Part of the reason increased amounts of carbon dioxide are lost to the atmosphere are due to the fact that drier conditions within the wetlands reduce the amount of non-woody vegetation. This is an irreversible effect of drought on wetland vegetation. The vegetation in wetlands is greatly impacted by droughts. As the water level decreases, the ability for the wetland to sustain its plant life also decreases. This can reduce biodiversity and cause increased harm to endangered species within the wetland. The reduction of plant life also leads to the scarcity of organic matter, which is a common food source for aquatic organisms and nutrients for the growth of new vegetation.
This effect on plant life can also affect agriculture and crop growth. As water reduces in wetlands, the same occurs in agricultural areas. This means more reliance on the use of irrigation methods. The use of these methods can lower the water table within surrounding wetlands, causing them to shrink even further. Another extreme effect of droughts is wildfires. Wildfires are common in the spring and summer months and the severity of these fires are growing each year. Wetlands tend to be an important landscape in these situations as they can serve as a protection to wildlife as they tend to be resilient to fires. Increased drought will result in these safe areas decreasing and not being as resilient in the coming wildfire seasons. Many different species of animals make their homes in wetlands. This includes migratory birds like the red-winged blackbird, soras, mallard ducks, and red-tailed hawks. Migratory birds rely on a connection of habitats along their flight path for life cycle needs. The reduction of these wetlands reduces the amount of potential habitats for their nesting and breeding needs. Wetland habitat loss can also affect the many pollinators that also make their homes in wetlands due to the typically high levels of plant biodiversity present. Pollinators like bees and moth species like the white-lined sphinx moth are common within wetlands. Wetland protection for the sake of these species is as important as ever as a decrease in all habitats for pollinators has been seen.
Since the 2000s, we have continued to change the natural hydrology of wetlands within Alberta, influencing their interconnectedness through irrigation and urban expansion, which has led to the extensive use of water from seasonal snowpacks, limiting its ability to recharge and maintain our wetlands, as we deplete the Bow River and its tributaries. Alberta has seen up to a 70% loss since European settlement, with a continuous loss of 0.3 to 0.5% of wetlands every year. This trend continues today because of factors such as conversion for agricultural use, resource extraction and depletion, as well as urban expansion.
It is important to consider what we can do to protect the wetlands that we have, and to help our watersheds combat drought. Due to wetlands being connected to underground aquifers, they can be used as a water source during drought seasons, but it is important that we do not exploit these resources too quickly. In Alberta, wetlands are classified at different values based on their function groups, which include aspects such as biodiversity, water quality, hydrologic function, recreational uses, and their relative abundance in the province. You might be thinking, what can we do to help wetlands? Water conservation, both outside and inside our homes, is the biggest thing we can all do to help reduce the effects of drought and protect our wetlands.
Wetlands are a sensitive area that must be protected. Government policies and human advocacy can be ways to protect these important ecosystems and conserve them for future generations. Although wetlands are negatively affected by droughts, they are also the answer to some of the consequences of extreme weather changes. Therefore, conservation of wetlands around the world is important for a healthy planet.